Welcome, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of WTF What's the Frequency? The show where we look at how nature's vibrations and frequencies can really affect the way we feel, the way we act, and how we create our destiny going forward. So, being interested in this subject and very aware of vibrational frequencies, I've got a guest who really deals in this every day of the week. He is the master of sound, Tony Washington, music producer, composer, and creator of musical blueprints. How exciting is that? So please welcome to the show, Tony Washington.
Hello, hello. How are you, Vanessa?
I'm really good. I'm really good. Thank you so much for joining us. And I know we're going to have like a really exciting conversation today
Yes,
about vibrational frequencies, which is what you deal in every day of the week.
yes, it is. I'm excited about the conversation as well, and excited to be talking with you. So, yeah, let's get to it.
Well, let me dive straight in then. What I first want to know is how did you first wake up to music? How old were you, and how did it sort of hit you and come into your life?
Well, it's funny because I come from just a musical family. Like my mother, as she was growing up, her and her sisters were, and her mom, they were traveling singers. Like they traveled all over the place and sang gospel music. And when I was born, it was just always around. Music was just always around in the church house. My mother played the piano in the church, and I got my first drum set when I was 18 months old. And people thought my parents were crazy. And I would just bang on them and just bang on them. I started playing in the church when I was like 4 or 5 years old, playing for like the youth group, and everybody thought that was cute. But then it just grew on me, and I was really started being the main drummer at the church and started playing the pianos and picked up I mean just all the instruments. And so music has just been ingrained in me. It's a part of the fibers of my life. Like I love it so much. Even through band. I was in the band. I played athletics, played sports and all that stuff, but I was one of those guys that would run a touchdown, go catch a touchdown pass right before half, and then go take my shoulder pads off and go put on my drum and play at halftime, and then come back and put my shoulder pads back on. And so it was just it's a part of who I am in my everyday life, and I just love it so much.
So it's basically in your DNA. It's come
It
down
is.
to your
It is.
ancestry that, you're all into music. And also the fact that gospel music, I love gospel music. It always makes me cry. Whenever I go to a gospel church, it really moves me. Talk to me about the resonance of that, why you think that is, because it's such a beautiful range. It's so encompassing when you're in a church and you hear really good gospel choirs sing.
So it's just it really tugs on the heart. It plays to a higher power. You know, I think that everything is sound to me. And so it really just plays into that. The gospel music, it's meant to connect you with your higher being. The words, the lyrics are more impactful. It's not glorifying anything that's man-made. It's not glorifying just what you can see, but it's glorifying that higher power, the unseen. And I think that it just speaks to the feelings that we have. It speaks to the ideas that we have about what's waiting for us on the other side, and who we really are. And so those type of lyrics, along with like amazing beautiful gospel chords, like gospel chords, just they're warm. And it's funny how they can have characteristics. Music can have different characteristics, like warm or cold, or angelic and melodic. So it's all of these different things that they feel, and they touch us in a certain way. Um, and they affect our chemical makeup, they affect our body. And so it's a scientific idea as well as it is like a spiritual thing, and it's just the combination of those uh put together. I love gospel music. And like I said, I love the chords, and I love the lyrics, and being able to sing them with my children and not have to edit anything. Like, it's just powerful. It's a very powerful genre of music, and it's where it's like my background is where I come from.
It's so interesting because so many people come to music through church. It's their first connection with it. And it certainly was for me. My father was a singer, and we were always in church, and he was always sort of, he had a great voice. So he was always doing a solo piece. But when I got introduced to gospel, it was a whole different level. It really hit me in the heart. It really uplifted me. And, at my friend's funeral, it flooded me with emotion that I really needed to release. And it was, even though I was cried all the way through it, it was a wonderful experience, but it had that ability to move us all at that point in time.
Hmm.
So let's talk about what you do now with music, because you create musical blueprints for people, don't you? So what is one of
Yes.
those, and where would you use it?
So I have a business called Loud Vision Anthems. Loud Vision. So it's really awesome. I create anthems, fight songs, sonic logos. What does your brand sound like? And my idea is that people can say your brand name, or they can sing your brand message. And the whole idea is to really produce a brand's sound. What type of things does your brand speak to, and what does that sound like? What's the culture of your brand, of your company, of your business, and what does that sound like? And I really try to help connect and bridge the gap between a business and their employees, a business and their customers, so we can all sing one song and have one sound that's memorable and engaging and makes people want to dance to to the beat of your drum. And it's really just that's what I'm doing now, and I love it so much. um it's a different level of music. Like, uh I started this really by chance. I won a contest by doing a freestyle, and I created a song for an event that I wanted to go to. And they asked, why do you deserve to go to this event? And I was in the automotive industry, and they said, why do you deserve to go to this event? And everybody sent in these things, and I created like a little music, created a song. And then I went live inside of this group, and I freestyled this thing, and was talking the language of that group, and what we were talking about, what the event was. And everybody went crazy. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, you got to do that. And so I got the opportunity to perform at this event, and that became part of the ticket sales. Some of the generation for the ticket sales was this song. And I was kind of blessed with the vision to have that become a business. And it was just it has snowballed from there. I've had multiple opportunities to create for conferences, for big brands, for small brands, for creators, for podcasters. And it's really awesome. I love to do it, and it allows me to use my gift to give to others, and to help spread light and share, and like shed light on others. And it's really awesome to be able to do that.
I like what you're saying about that, because we've talked before about how sound and light carry frequency, carry information, and that information can be positive or negative, can't it? It can have a great effect on you, or it can't. And I think it's really important that brands do have a sort of sonic blueprint, if you will, because music really carries us on such a journey, doesn't it? It can take us back to our youth. It can remind us of times when we felt safe and warm, or, and we don't, and in films, music is so important to pull on your heartstrings, to feel sad, to feel, wonderful when the couple are in love, or relieved that the guys escaped in in a thriller or whatever. Music is everything. So one of the things I just wanted to touch on here is that obviously your passion for music and your inventiveness around music led serendipity to create a business for you, didn't it? It just
It
sort of
did.
said,
It
well,
did.
we've been listening and here's an opportunity. And you had your eyes wide open and ears open to sort of see it and hear it and go for it. So it's incredible. And I think that's a message to everybody. If you're passionate about something, the opportunities do come up, but they might not necessarily be, that amazing record deal at £1 million to start off with. It might be something like you've just described, to get your foot in the door and do one thing and then get flooded by loads of other opportunity, more serendipity, because you're being really true to yourself and you're doing what you love. So talk to me about composing, because I've always been interested in this. How on earth do you compose? Where does it come from? Do you tune in? Does it just drop in while you're asleep? How do you get it?
So I that's funny. I call them downloads. God digital downloads into my spirit. And at the end of a creation, I'm always excited. And just before I dig in on that, I want to speak to what you just said about, how basically the alignment, how things just kind of happen. And I'll say this, that if you move towards a thing that you are really passionate and that you believe in, that the universe will conspire in your favor, and it will put these things in your way, and you just have to be aware enough to be able to see it. And so I'll leave that there. But I believe that, like, composing is just so fun to me. So I always start with different things will spark the creativity. But especially whenever I'm composing for a brand or for somebody, individually, or a company or anything like that, it starts with a conversation, just understanding who they are and understanding their brand and what they stand for, the things that they uh I believe that everybody almost has their own sound in their mind as well. And so I ask those questions, like, what do you hear whenever you think of your brand? What type of brands do you like? And so it once we start getting a palette of what their sound is, and we get some action words, some words that really emphasize what they believe their brand sounds like, then it's really just putting those ideas. If it's energetic, then there's certain tempos, and so I'll listen to a metronome at a certain tempo and just allow my fingers to play something. Or I may
Sorry,
have.
can I just pick you up there for a second? You just let your fingers play something. So
Yes,
who's controlling that? You or something above?
it is definitely a divine, there's a calling that happens, and it's I don't really. I get to be kind of the conduit of that creativity. I get to be the go through, but I don't believe that it's all me. And so I'm always grateful, um of where it comes from, and these creative thoughts and these ideas, whether it's a full chords and everything, or it's just a couple simple patterns, or just a bounce back and forth between a couple of keys and a certain method that create the idea. And so it starts small, and it always builds, and I just build upon the idea. um I love it. I love it. It's easier to do than it is to talk about how it's done, and it's
Well, I
just
know I
fun.
know exactly what you're saying, because people say to me, "How do you heal?" And I say, "Well, it's divine intervention. I just
It is.
connect, and then information comes to me, and I'm able to just clear, And they say, "But how?" And it's like, well, I'd rather show you than talk to you about it, because some things are beyond words, aren't they? And it's a bit like, using sound to describe that. It's information that comes in a different way. And when I see energy, for instance, I'm seeing it in color. So when it's bad, it's black. It's quite
Yeah.
easy to
Yeah.
detect. And I just need to scoop it out and return it to source to be cleaned, really. So some things are beyond words. They are an extension of our being, if you want, a different level of feeling, aren't they? And people say
It
to me,
is.
when you see when you say, oh, I've got your granny here, or, I've got your grandfather here, or some ancient relative, I'm not really seeing them with my eyes. I'm seeing them with my mind. And I'm guessing it's a bit like that with your music. It's
It
just sort of all
is.
going on at a different level.
And you know what, Vanessa, it is. I've had an eclectic experience with music. Like I've just gathered. I've always been a music collector and just a sound collector. And I can hear something that somebody else would cringe at, and I just find the beauty in it, and it becomes just a part of me. And so I appreciate different genres. I appreciate um different sounds and different cultures. And so with all of that, I've just accumulated a lot of things, and like sound design and then sound selection. My sound selection has become, very refined over the time, because I've been able to appreciate these cultures in the way that a mandolin can appreciate, a harp, or and it's just that putting those ideas together, and it creates something very unique, and then putting like a hard beat up under it, or a soft beat over some hard power chords or something, and it's just those ideas that almost juxtapose, but they become very unique, and add just a brilliance and beauty to a composition. And
I
people,
just wanted to jump in and ask you another question there,
yeah.
because a friend of mine is a gender intelligence expert. And I wanted to ask you, are certain frequencies more female orientated than they are male? Um, you know, but are there sort of differences between them? Because I've noticed that girls I know, well, they all love to dance anyway, love the bass. And always it's like it's all about the bass. Whereas men seem to be more about the treble. I don't know. What have you, is there any?
That's funny that you say that. And I've seen it. I've not really started to segment, gender along with the frequencies. I kind of look at it as a whole, but a lot of those things, like the bass is a really low chakra. It's like a little bit lower. Treble is a little bit higher, and there are, I don't know why that is, that women appreciate the bass, or I love bass. Um I don't know that it is. I
To
will definitely
me,
look
to
into that
me,
a lot
it's
more.
to me, bass leads the dance. It's the everything follows the bass. It's like the lead, although it's the most simple, and to me, it's the most powerful because it leads the dance. Without it, you can't dance, can you? I mean, I shouldn't really say this, but I can't bear jazz. Courtney Pine does nothing for me at all apart from give me a headache. You can't dance to it. So
That's
it's
funny.
like, no, thank you. So sorry, Courtney. I know you're
Jazz
ready.
is meant to be curious. It's meant to be like, very intriguing, and I agree though. And it's not surprising that there is a difference in the frequencies between men and women, because our chemical makeups are slightly different. And so that is interesting. I'll look deeper into that. But as far as like the way that sound affects us, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, with our anxieties and different things like that, I really do appreciate how that happens.
And
um
can I just jump in there and ask you a question again?
yeah.
Having said you appreciate that, I want to talk about Hertz frequencies. And what are they called? Solfeggio frequencies. I think there's 9 of them, aren't they, that actually affect your physical, mental well-being. And I understand that people like Beyonce mix them in there to make us feel super good whenever we hear her singing. I mean, not that she's not good enough already.
Yes. So like, there are hollow sync frequencies and hemisync frequencies, binaural, um sounds and different things like that, that are, a lot of these are basically hidden messages inside of music and sounds that we hear. And they can be frequencies that unlock focus, or unlock healing, and or help with anxiety. And so all of these different things, uh I try to put some of those ideas into my music as well. Like there's a focus, hollow sync sound that I have like stripped down, and I put it in some of my music, like just as an underlying tone. And you can't really hear it whenever all the stuff is going on. But if you were to break it down, and you could hear it, and it's very prevalent inside of the music. And it's just funny, um that, and maybe it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. I truly believe that it does. uh and it's really powerful, I believe, because it affects the way that we think and our buying
Well,
decisions. And
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And I think it's really interesting that you just finished there and saying, buying decisions, but on a physical level. It was quite funny when I recorded some meditations. I did a toolkit for times of stress and worry. When I did the one for sleep, because when you're stressed, you can't sleep, your mind's going crazy. We just couldn't record it because everyone kept falling asleep because we were playing this particular frequency through it. And we'd get nearly to the end, and I'd be, talking really slowly and making sure I wasn't breathing too heavily. And then all of a sudden you'd hear this sort of like
snoring in the background.
I can't believe it. We're on like take 7. We just all have 3 cappuccinos and we're going to do this one last time.
That's
So,
hilarious.
yeah, I mean, I'm a great believer that they do work. And I really do think that this is ancient information that we've lost through sound. I live in a medieval town, and on our 14th century maps, we've got chanting houses dotted all over the place. But then when you look more closely, dotted on the ley lines that run through the town. No information about them at all. Can't find anything out about them at all. But clearly, people got together there and got engaged in making specific sounds, specific tones to bring harmony to all. So I think we've lost an awful lot of this. So I'm very interested that
Do you know the name Hans Jenny?
I've heard it, yes.
So Hans Jenny he was a physician, a natural scientist. He created and coined the word. He didn't create, but he coined the word cymatics. He was the one that came up with that word. And he has a quote, and I love it. It says, "Everything owes its existence solely and completely to sound."
Oh, I love that. I love that. Could you just say that again?
Everything owes its existence completely or solely and completely to sound. And there are some awesome documentaries on Hans, and just him talking about sound and frequencies and currents and the way that it moves. But as we were talking about that, I was thinking about the cymatics, and I wanted to really go into that part of it, because the way that it affects us. You've seen the cymatic experiments, correct? Like on sand, on water, where they will play a vibration, a hertz, a sound, and they will have a really light sand on top of like a plate, a metal plate. And that sound, each different frequency, each hertz will affect the sound differently. It will affect the sand differently. It will create patterns. And you play a different frequency at a different hertz level, and it will affect the sand differently and create another pattern. And I
Hold
believe,
that
okay,
thought.
go ahead.
Hold
Go
that
ahead.
thought right there, because we have to take a break now. And this really is an
I love
amazing
it. Okay, yes,
conversation.
yes.
So, everybody, please stay with us because we're just going to have a quick word from our sponsors, My Life Spring, and we'll be back in a minute to finish this fantastic conversation about cymatics.
Ignite your vitality. Meet the LifeSpring Gold Card, a quantum leap in wellness. Revitalize your bioenergy, boost stamina, ease aches, and improve your mental focus. Shield yourself from electromagnetic frequencies emitted from cell phones, laptops, and other smart technologies. Restructure tap water, revitalize food, and harmonize everything around you. Elevate well-being with LifeSpring, made in the USA. Order today from VanessaElston.com.
Welcome back, everybody, and thanks so much for staying with us. I'm here with Taylor Washington, the Meister of Sound, talking about cymatics, vibration of music, sound and frequencies, and lots of exciting things. So before the break, Taylor, we were just about to get into cymatics. So we were talking about how if you feed a frequency across a plate of grass that's covered in sand, that all sorts of very interesting shapes will appear. Continue, please.
Absolutely.
That's where we've got to.
So they've got these metal plates, and they put them on these speakers, and they play a sound, a vibrational sound, a sound that has vibration, obviously, and they play it at a certain hertz, and it creates shapes out of the sand that they put on these plates. And they're really interesting plates. And earlier you were talking about, kind of some of the ancient things that exist, the crop patterns and all these different things. But it's just interesting the way that happens is it creates a pattern. And if you play at a different frequency at a different hertz, it will create a different pattern. And it's not by chance, because if you play that pattern that you played before, it will make the exact same shape. And it's almost like a hidden language. It's almost like it's a language. And they've done this with water as well. And where water, they'll be pouring a stream of water, and they'll play a certain frequency, and the water will take different shapes. And you play another frequency, and the water takes a different shape, and you play the same one that you played before, and it'll go right back to that same shape. And I don't think that that's by chance. And so, to touch on what Hans Jenny said, where everything owes its existence solely and completely to sound, you just think about our chemical makeups and how we are physically made up as a body, and how we're
if we're all
70% sound. I mean,
yeah,
70% water.
yeah,
It
yeah,
affects us
exactly.
on a physical level.
Yeah.
And our thinking, and I believe that it is a language that speaks to us, that we don't hear the words being spoken sometimes, but it speaks to us internally. And so whenever you talk about the gospel music that you feel, and you feel some type of way, or you think about your favorite love song, or you think about your favorite rock song or hip hop, or whatever the case may be, they are different patterns that are speaking internally to us, that affect our body a little bit differently. And so
Well,
it's really powerful. Go ahead.
no, yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because we're 70 to 80% water. We are, conduits. Einstein said everything is energy, we're balls of energy. So energy is sound and light. So we are shine. We have a sort of blueprint of light, and a blueprint of sound, and a blueprint of energy, and they're all sort of somehow combined. And I think that's why we're so affected by music, because it does talk to us in the language of the heart as opposed to the mind. It affects how we feel. It's so emotional. And just going back to those shapes, what's really interesting when they play the hertz frequencies across those metal plates or glass plates, and the shapes appear, is that we've all seen those shapes before. We've seen them in ancient manuscripts. We've seen them in ancient temples. We've seen them in churches, but they're somehow lost to us. It's a language that we no longer understand. And on the crop circles, I wonder if it's a mathematical language, like the Fibonacci sequence, that is actually talking to us in a 3D sense, maths and sort of sound. We should somehow be able to put it together, and we just can't. We're not evolved enough at the moment, maybe. But sound particularly is affecting us. And I just want to talk about that for a moment, because we've talked a lot about music when we've been sort of, off camera. And I want to talk about bad sound, because certain music makes you feel great, you can dance to it. Other music, and I had a young suicidal goth client recently. And the first thing I said to him is, "What are you listening to?" And he said, "Well, goth music, of course." And I said, "Can you send me some of what you listen to, and oh my goodness, it just nearly melted my brain. It was almost a frequency of the Yeti, sort of infrasound. And I put him on a prescription of old school hip hop. So I said, it's quite anarchic, but you can dance to it. And it's got lots of layers that I believe will positively affect you. So he wasn't very happy, but not listening to goth music actually did have a really good impact on his level of well-being. What do you think about that?
So, you said a word that I think that we can touch on really good, and that was resonance. And so, I'm sure you've seen those resonance examples where a piano on the other side of the room can be playing a song, and if there was another instrument or anything, and that sound, like there was the right note played, that it would actually cause a reverberation in the other instrument if it played that sound. That you've seen this with glass instruments, with like glass water inside of glass cups, where they will play a certain sound, and you can actually hear the same sound coming out of the glass of water. And what that is, resonance is more of like a reflection. It's what's being reflected. And if there's resonance, and then there's this thing called dissonance and discord, like. And so that discord, I believe that is like the bad, whenever you say bad sound, I believe that that's the bad sound. And like, so those to me are more related to reflection. And
Mm.
reverb is a reflection. And so whenever we start thinking about it from that stance, like, there's a reflection that happens inside of us, and we resonate with certain sounds, and it's resonance inside of us, and it's either going to make us sound just like that thing that's coming out of us, or that's coming into us, and we're going to have that good sound. And we're going to it's going to be a reverb, and we're going to be a reflection of that, or there's going to be dissonance, and it's going to cause discord inside of us, even in our bodies, our physical, our minds, the way that we start to act. And I think that whenever you say a goth, and you start thinking about some of the different type of music, the grunge and different things like that, where there's a lot of just very aggressive and more aggression, I believe that is like that discord and that dissonance that's happening. And it's purposeful. They do that on purpose, and there are a lot of chords that are made, like, because certain chords are happy, and certain chords are notes right on top of each other that cause uh it's waves, sound waves, that go against each other and not together. And whenever that happens, it does something to our physical makeup. It can make us cringe, almost like whenever we hear a bad note in a song. And even if you have no musical uh background, or music theory at all, when you hear a bad note, you recognize it. And it's because it's innate, and we love the good sounds. And whenever we hear that dissonance, that's that stuff that's against it, it makes us, it tightens us up, it causes a tension. And I believe that that's what that is.
Yeah, because I heard a radio DJ who was a DJ on a London radio say, I can speed up or slow down the traffic with music, and I can remember sort of days driving around London, listening to rave music, probably driving a lot faster than I should. And then other days where clearly he was at work, and we were listening to sort of, I don't know, Gladys Knight or something like that, really calming, lovely ballads. But just on that, really, I want to pivot a bit
Okay.
because it's 50 years of hip hop
Hip
this
hop.
year.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. I can remember when hip hop hit. I worked in the fashion industry. We were like, what the hell is this? What are they wearing? This is an amazing sound. It's got a political message, but you can still dance to it. And it's smashing up all these music genres and putting them together. This is amazing, and we were just so taken aback by it. And I cannot believe that we've got 50 years of it now. And 30 years of the Wu-Tang Clan, and one of their members is going to be conducting the New York Orchestra. I mean, what? Talk to me about hip hop, because I love it. I know you do too.
I love hip hop. It is, and hip hop is a lifestyle. It's not just a music genre, and I think that that is the thing that's allowed it to have such longevity, is that it is a lifestyle. It is a way of life. Big H hip hop. You know, there's hip hop, the genre, little H hip hop, but then there's Big H hip hop, and I think one of the things that's allowed it to sustain is that it recalls on even the creation of hip hop called on a previous time. It called on sampling, what they call sampling from other music, other genres outside of it, and then putting your own spin on it. And then and I believe that that has just allowed it to sustain. And as the years have progressed, we are always able to dig back and grab something that may be nostalgic to someone else, or maybe nostalgic to us, or it may speak to a certain type of feeling that you have, and to remake it, to sample it, and to make it feel a little bit different, but still tell that same story. And you know, I think that that's a powerful, the lyrics on hip hop, really lyrical, you know, lyricists, and the lyrics are speaking in today's time. And so
But let's just talk about that for a
yeah,
minute, because I love old school hip hop, and the rappers of that time, of the early 70s and late 70s, early 80s, were superb. I mean, they were so smooth. It was so, their what do you call it? Their ciphers were
yeah,
so on it, and it just all flowed. And I'm sorry to say this, hip hop artists of today, not very impressed. I'm really not. I'm always saying to kids that, say, listen to this on TV, and I'm like, no, listen to this. This is proper hip hop. I mean, what do you think about that? Because the other thing I wanted to just touch on is that time. There was no money, was there? Everything was in crisis. Nobody had a job.
that's right.
It was dire straits, both here in the UK and in the US. So, it came as nothing, but it was, people were so professional, weren't they? It was so competitive.
Well, it's an outlet. It was an outlet to really speak on what was going on around anyone in that particular society, anyone in those communities. It became a way for them to tell a story. And some of the greatest storytellers are, some of those older hip hop artists. The people, the Slick Ricks, and people that could tell like a really amazing, captivating story over rhyme, over a beat that was a chopped up sample from something in the 50s. And it's that type of architecture inside of the underlying themes and ideas and concepts that make it so unique. And as hip hop has evolved, the message has evolved, but real hip hop still is speaking on relevant times, on what's going on today, even though it may sound, it may be over a sound that is from the 80s, or a sound that's from early 2000s. And I think that another thing that's allowed hip hop to have its longevity is that it has merged with so many different genres. Is that just like me as a person, how I said I collected all of these different things from these different cultures and genres and all this stuff. Hip hop has done the same thing. And has
And I love the fact that, I was in South America, in Colombia, and I was in Cartagena, and some little Spanish dudes came up to me and said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Oh, I'm from London." And they just stuck their boombox on and delivered an amazing rep for me. And I was just so impressed, And I said to them, "Tell me, who do you love hip hop wise?" And they were like, on it, NWA, Digital Underground, Wu-Tang Clan. I was like, wow, you're about 15. I'm in Colombia and you're rapping based on this sort of history of excellence. How wonderful is that? And the other thing that I talked to them about was street art, because Colombia is full of street art. And they said, well, again, it goes back to hip hop, that we are making a political statement on our buildings. And I think that was the other bit of hip hop that I loved, was that it was on the buildings, it was on the trains, it was on the t-shirts, it was everywhere all at once.
It starts in here, and then it's an outward expression of everything that's going on inside, and I think that's what's beautiful about it. I call hip hop a martial arts. And I do that because hip hop and like karate and martial arts are so closely related. And you love Wu-Tang, and so you'll see a lot of their stuff, and it's just that discipline of what it is and what it stands for, and always evolving. And I think that's hip hop. Like, that's what I love about hip hop, is that it's always evolving. It will always exist, I feel, because since its creation, it has been able to grow and to evolve and to expand into new areas and new regions and new cultures that have picked it up and started to practice this
Let's just
awesome.
talk about that for a minute, because we were laughing about this off camera, and I think it's worth talking about again, really, is that, we talk about its reach, talk about the reach of hip hop, how it hit all cultures. We all loved it. Everybody did it, just touched everybody. But then we had like white hip hoppers. I mean, like, who are we talking about? The Beastie Boys, middle class, well, not even middle class, really wealthy white boys who decide, oh, forget this really expensive education that I've had, forget all that. I want to be like these guys. I mean, that to me was just, well, it was hysterical on one hand, but then they actually managed to pull it off. What do you think about that?
I think that, like I said, it is telling your story from your perspective on the world. And so the Beastie Boys understood that. They didn't believe that it was that it should be segmented, and I think that the culture accepted that they were able to tell their story from their perspective, even though it was hip hop. Run DMC accepted that. They loved that, and they told their story over, and so I think that as we've progressed and we've started to see, like what you're saying, we've seen different races and different ethnicities, different, cultures embracing hip hop, because everyone can tell their story from their perspective. And then if you make it entertaining and it's fun, that's what I mean. Hip hop is just fun. It's exciting. And because there's so many different styles, it's not cookie cutter. It's like, express yourself the way that you express yourself. And that's what people love about it. And I think that that's why it will live forever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly what I love about it. It's always fresh, it's always new. Even if you're listening to something old, it still has that freshness about it, and
Exactly.
it can be given a twist to make it new. And I also have loved the way that, Indian tracks or Indian really cultural songs have been sampled and put into hip hop and classical music. And like you said before, it's just always evolving because it's a complete mashup. And I think that's the beauty of it. And that's why I particularly love old hip hop, is it's the layering of it, that gives it this incredible depth, that you'll be listening to the words one day, just dancing to it the next day, picking up on the riff, another day. It's multi-layered. And I just think it's also, I like the fact that it defies boundaries. It does. It says
It's always pushing the limits. Yeah.
yeah. Don't tell us we can't say the police. We're going to play it anyway.
It's always pushing boundaries. And hip hop started off not so safe, and I believe that that's what's awesome about it, is that because it's pushing boundaries, it's embraced the idea that it's not meant to be a safe space. Like, it's a safe space, but it's pushing into new territories always, and always expanding. And yeah, I love it. I love that whole thing. So
I also love the fact, and I'm sorry to be banging the women drum again here, but back in the day, we only had people like Eve, didn't we? And Queen Latifah
Yeah.
and Missy Elliott. And now we've got this whole raft of girls that are really nailing it, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, crushing it. So there is a lot of female artists who are really great lyricists who really nail it. I think that there's some dissonances out there as well, like where it's kind of, against some of the things. But it's what's going on right now, and it's people telling their own story, and that's what's awesome about it. That's what's really cool about it, is that you get the opportunity to share from your perspective. And so whatever's going on in the culture, then it's expressed inside of this music, and it's, like I said, it's just always expanding.
I love the fact, and it's generally uncensored, isn't it? Which is quite good because I love that authenticity of it. That power that has, even if it is a bit rude. But just before we go, to any budding music entrepreneurs or anybody that would love to get into music, I mean, I
Yeah,
could talk to you all day, but sadly, we're coming to the end of the show.
I know it.
What would be your top 3 tips for anybody wanting to get into the music business?
I would say practice daily. Find something that resonates with you, whether it's a piano, a guitar, a drum set, even if it's just some sticks banging on the side of a wall. Like, find something that you enjoy doing, and practice daily. Um, I would say listen to music, not just create, like, but listen and find intricacies inside of music. And then from my stance, understanding what's happening inside of the music and why it's making people feel the way that it feels, um, is really important. There are so many effects that music and frequencies have on our lives, and how does it affect you, and how do you want it to affect the next person whenever you're creating. And so I think if we can do those things, those are like base level. If we can do those things, then we can all carve our own path inside of this great big music world, this frequency world that we live in.
I love that. What lovely words. So think of it as a gift about raising everybody's vibration with whatever you create. What a
Yeah.
wonderful resonance you've had with me just saying that. That's a beautiful thing to say. Well, Tony Washington, Tony with the keys. I can't thank you enough. This has been a really incredible conversation. And
I've enjoyed it.
I just wish you lived a bit nearer so that I could pop round for a cup of coffee and we could continue it. But for our viewers, if anybody's out there that wants a sonic blueprint for their brand or wants you to compose some music, how do we find you?
So I am everywhere on social media as Tony with the Keys. Instagram, Tony with the Keys. Facebook, Tony with the Keys. LinkedIn, Tony with the Keys. So everywhere like that. I've got a website that's loudvisionanthems.com/home. If you go there, then you'll be able to see kind of some of the works that I've done in the past. And I believe that you'll have something where we can leave a link to that, for them to find it. But definitely, I love to connect, and we'll do a quick questionnaire, like an assessment, and see what kind of sound your brand speaks to. And what does your brand sound like? And I'd love to create your anthem. Um, my mission is to inspire production that produces inspiration, or produce inspiration that inspires production. And so that's what I love to do, and I'd love to do it for you.
Okay, everybody. Well, if you didn't get that, Tony with the keys, Tony with the keys, Tony with the keys. And if you want, your sonic blueprint for your brand or some wonderful music composed, don't hesitate to get in touch with this wonderful man who isn't just all about music. He's all about creating a vibrational frequency that's going to uplift people that hear his creations. Tony, thank you so much for joining us. And everybody, please make sure that you tune in next week. We're always on the Limelight Network, E360 TV at 8 o'clock Eastern on a Monday. So I hope to see you next time. Please like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And thanks again for joining us in Love and Light, everyone.